very attracted to the structure. Also, the ability to call myself a Marine seemed lofty, and I wanted to put myself to that test. Served in the Marine Corps, I enjoyed my service. I found it to be very, very foundational in what has become my life. In that time, I was involved in a training accident and was not able to stay in the Marine Corps. And that was, of course, for being a young person with that being my whole focus in life, that was devastating. I left the Marine Corps very confused with physical and some mental injuries, and eventually made my way into municipal law enforcement. I knew that from the Marines I could wear a uniform, I was disciplined, and could carry a gun, and I wanted to serve my community. Did that for as long as I could. Those injuries caught up with me, both the physical and the mental struggles. At the time, I was overly hyper vigilant as a peace officer. I saw danger everywhere where there probably wasn't. I lived in a world of possibility, of possible danger, not probable danger. I didn't sleep. I first thought it was because I worked night shift. When I was in the Marines, I worked a lot of night hours. I thought that was normal. It wasn't. I did not function successfully. I functioned in an area of high alert, of borderline paranoia, and I surrounded myself with other young men and women who were in the same boat. So that was normal. Eventually, when those physical injuries caught up to me and I could not continue to work in law enforcement, otherwise jeopardizing the lives of the men and women I served with, a supervisor encouraged me to seek help through the VA. Of course, I didn't want to. I wasn't a person who asked for help, and I also wasn't a person who thought I had another career option. I went through with what my grandfather used to call a John Wayne attitude, which was great, and then my grandfather would remind me, John Wayne was an actor, and I wasn't. With the urging of my grandfather, that police captain, an Army vet, I sought out help through the VA, a structure that I was very unsure of, and I did that on my own. At first it was seeking physical help for some mobility issues. Quickly it turned into very clear through interactions with VA clinicians. They became aware that I was struggling with something more, and I was also unwilling to recognize that. In that time, the VA assisted me in going through college. I didn't believe I was a person that could go to college. I thought I was a person that worked in that job capacity, and I was going to work there for the rest of my life. I thought I was happy. In that time, I had 4 children and a wife, kids in a small town. I had a church I belonged to, and I quickly realized at the prompt of my family that I was the reason they were unhappy. And I was unhappy because I held on to things I didn't know how to let go of. In that window of going to school and trying to find another purpose, I worked through a couple programs and found myself as a civilian working for the U.S. Army in Rock Island, Illinois, on an island in the middle of the Mississippi. At that point, I was new to government service, but I was surrounded by veterans, surrounded by people who had lived through various states of issues I was dealing with. They encouraged me to continue my journey. I sought out talk therapy. It helped a little. I sought out medical intervention through medication. It took a while, and then it started to help a little more. My kids became older, and about the time my oldest was in high school, my second oldest was in middle school or junior high, they cornered my mom and asked for somewhat of an intervention. And they challenged me. At this point in time, I had finished grad school and I was working on my PhD. My oldest said, "Dad, you're really hard to be with." And I knew that. In my head, again, the John Wayne mentality is this is how it's supposed to be. I'm raising disciplined children. My staff are soldiers. They're very accepting of this. They weren't. And my son said, "Dad, I did this project on the service dogs, and I think you would be a good fit." fit. I didn't believe him. My mom said, well, if you're such a good academic, you prove to me it doesn't work. So I sat out over a few months and could not use academic sources to find any information that said this will not work. So I applied to a program. I said I would apply to one program, and if it didn't work, I was done. I wasn't as receptive. But that being receptive at the urging of my family pushed me towards Gottner 6, towards an organization that looked at veterans and first responders, looked at the community and supported by the community for change. I went through that process, applied for a service dog. That was my first service dog. My life drastically changed in that 7 years. In that time frame, I went from an employee struggling to an employee succeeding. 6 promotions in 7 years. Several deployments places around the world. I did things that I didn't think I could. My children are successful. My family's much happier. Those 2 other things, the medical intervention, talk therapy, it became a structure that with a service dog, that early warning detection that things were arising in me that were going to be a problem, I could identify that before it became so glaring that I couldn't. My dog acted as a furry alarm clock or a pressure valve. With that awareness, I began to use those coping skills I had learned, also with the help of medication and the support of family, to begin spanning out within my organization, dealing with soldiers and Army civilians, saying, hey, this is okay. Having this service dog is okay. See how it's affected us. Because it went from my family to my coworkers to my organization. In that time frame, I had four soldiers in our organization committed suicide. And follow on within that 18 years, 2 civilians. These are people I knew and worked with. These are people that had petted my service dog. Had said things like, I wish that was available to me, or I don't know how you do that. How I did it is things got so bad that I had to find a change because the options were scary. And using that ability to reach out, that community, the medication, those tools that are available in small amounts, using those to make a change in my life. With my second service dog, Gertrude, she's a personality. She's teaching me other things. Without venues like this, action that implements these factors that we know are real, they're valid, they have structure, and reaching that out to the greater veteran community, we have the ability to reduce not only suicide, but increase the effectiveness of our community members, our family members, our neighbors, and further on the constituents that you seek to serve in your office. This creates a positive change that will affect the lives of people to the 3rd and the 4th order. And that helps us as folks who want to support our community know that when we come through these hard things, when we see others coming through them as well, we know this journey is back to that honorable place that we were very proud of. That coping with the things we've had to deal with is possible. They're not so overwhelming. So I would like to thank you for your time, for coming here, each of you. And if there's anything you'd like to ask me separate or later,